Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Prep Zone. Joined as always by John Moore. I'm Rob Giampapa. We're of RebelRunSports.com. Joined today by Coach Jason Eldredge, West Springfield head football coach, and two-time state girls basketball champion.
Little known fact.
All right. Well, Coach, let's talk about the season. You guys had a high-powered offense. You had a great year. What did you learn from this year that you can carry into next season?
Well, we had to get better up front. We really couldn't stop the run or run the ball ourselves last year. So that's generally a problem in football. So we've really worked in our offseason to hammer out the line of scrimmage guys, gain weight. We're going to be relying on a lot of young kids up front, both on the offensive and defensive lines. Our front seven looks pretty good right now because we had most of them returning. So we've really pushed the weight gain and muscle mass gain in the weight room. So that's our big initiative. We feel like our skill guys are going to be there just because they're returning and they're really good. So, we got to rebuild the secondary a little bit, but I think with the youth in our secondary, we can kind of mask that if we can get some pressure on the quarterback. And again, that's up front. So,
excellent.
Jason, you reached the pinnacle of coaching twice, girls basketball.
Yes.
You start coaching football. What kind of pressure does that put on yourself to reach that level?
Well, I have a lot more pressure on myself because of it's all self-imposed. I mean, I think, and we've talked about this before, I think, John, but when you reach that place, nothing less really will do. And so when you have good seasons and there's a little disappointment here and there when you don't reach your ultimate goal, it's extra deteriorating for someone like me because I know what it feels like to be at that point in your season where everybody's looking at you as this is where we want to be, and you're really just trying to get there. And it's like climbing a mountain that every peak you get to, you look up and there's another peak that you have to go to. So, it's always a process, and I think why I feel like I'm lucky in this situation is I don't settle for we just won a region, so that's great, yay. Really good team. Now I'm good, not good. Okay. And the other thing is I can push my kids to that extra level too because they, the ones I'm coaching have no idea what it's like to win a state title or even compete for one for that matter. And I think telling them that's the goal instead of we're just trying to win 6 games, we're just trying to make the playoffs. I think that ultimately gives us an extra motivation to push them to a higher level.
Right.
So.
Well, reaching that next level, reaching that higher plateau, reaching that ultimate goal becomes a lot easier when you have a quarterback returning like you do, Peter Musket. Yep. But you also have some skill position guys coming back. My guy Daniel Ledoux's coming back.
Yes.
Najee Green. Talk about some of your returning players.
So obviously those are the guys that we're really going to rely on. And they're high-level talent, very athletic. We have a couple other kids people don't know too much about. We have a baseball player who's going to be playing football for only his second year. He's 6'4", and he can jump out of the gym. Now, he's a baseball guy, which I say that in jest, but he is going to be a difference maker across the middle for us. He'll be lined up as a tight end. We'll line him up as a slot, maybe a little bit out as a split. So he's going to help alleviate pressure off Daniel and Najee, in my opinion, because I think secondaries are going to load up on him. Still looking for a running back, not going to lie to you. But Peter's our best runner. Right. And so we're going to use a little bit of that misdirection with him because we have a backup quarterback who's also our starting slot who's decently athletic. And so that's going to open things up, I think, across the field. You're going to have to guard 5 guys against us. And I can see that being a problem for a lot of teams. And if we can get our offensive line solidified with the young guys and keep Pete out of pressure, then we're in really good shape. So we'll see how it shakes out. Kids are working hard. We just don't have a lot of them. I wish we did. And unfortunately, that's where I'm at. With the school I'm in, we have to really develop our second and third tier guys. We've got a young kid. He's a rising sophomore. He's going to help us. His name is Jack Cawson. His brother played in the league. Played at the Redskins as a tight end. Also played at Tennessee. He's the all-time leading receiver for tight ends at James Madison. This kid, he's a stud. He's 6'3", and he works his tail off. And so I think he's also going to step in. So you're going to see a lot of size and athleticism for us on offense. So we just have to make sure that we protect our interests with Peter with the young bigs. And we have big linemen. They're just sophomores. So.
Right.
And you played major college football.
Yes.
Most people won't believe that.
No, how? Look at me. I mean, how you didn't.
I did not. How did that experience?
And you were a lot better than me in high school, so good for you.
That is very true.
Yeah.
How did your experience playing college football, help with, the way that you coach?
Well, this is why I'm in this. And, we'll talk about our high school coach, down the line here. I was not adequately prepared for what I went into at Miami University in Ohio as far as the schedule, what to expect out of the common day, week, and academic situation as a college athlete when I got there. I was overwhelmed. I didn't do it very well. On the field, actually, I was fine. Had a plan set forth for me, and everything was good to go. But trying to maintain, 15 to 18 hours a day of business-related activity, which is what I like to call it. I mean, because when you get to that level, it's a business. And then also trying to promote or simulate, and that, I guess I should say, a normal college student life, impossible. And so academically, I fell off a little bit, and I just couldn't handle it very well. So my whole goal in this profession is to help kids like Daniel Adu and Peter Musket know what they're getting into when they transition into college and know what they have to look forward to and understand that their real work starts after high school. I mean, this is fun now.
Right.
When you get into college, that person's livelihood depends on your progress. So if you're not maintaining your level of discipline, it's not going to work for you or him. And it could cost you an education. It could cost the coach's job. And it's just, there's a lot more on the line. And I don't think kids understand that when they leave high school. Because generally when you get to that level, you've been good in high school.
Right.
So you just think, I'm just going to be good. And that's not necessarily how it goes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, talking to piggyback off that, how important is your off-season program right now? Kind of getting these you can't obviously get them all ready for college, but how important is that off-season program for you, getting them ready for what you want for the next season?
Very important. The big thing is to keep them involved. You got to keep their schedules working. So we have anywhere from 4 to 6 days of activity a week, whether it's lifting, speed training, 7-on-7s, camps, whatever it is that we're trying to promote. We want to keep them involved in doing things after school to keep their time structured.
Gotcha.
Because that's what they're going to have to go through when they're in college. And then also to develop physically. And I mean, kids from 14 to 17 make huge leaps and bounds with their muscle development. And it's not as much, you cap out a little more when you get to college, but it's still the same modality of training. So what we try to do is just get them used to working year round.
Okay.
Because that's what they're going to be doing.
Right.
So
So you rely on the senior leadership, the guys that were juniors going in their senior year to kind of pull the rest of the kids together. I can remember, as soon as the bell rang, I was trying to hit the beach out of high school.
Right.
Not working out with my teammates for the next year. So what's that challenge like?
Well, that's the biggest challenge. The biggest frustration for me right now, because we're in standardized testing in public schools right now, and there's a hard drive for all those academic things that Virginia makes you do and the VOE. But the challenge I have is keeping them motivated, because now they've been doing it, a lot of them, since January, whether they've been in other sports or not, and keeping them active as far as wanting to continue to see those gains. So it's a struggle, particularly with today's child. I mean, all the manipulatives you have that can keep you away from lifting weights. When we were growing up, we could go outside and play a little bit, but it was, keep yourself busy by going out and playing ball with your friends or lifting weights or doing whatever. Now you can be online doing whatever with whoever. And so, trying to keep them, disciplined to the process is a huge mountain. And it's why some kids go in the doghouse with me and then they pull themselves out of it, because they start driving themselves in the wrong path, and then they got to kind of pull them back. And it takes senior leadership. Guys like Peter Musket, who are very looked up to in our building with other kids, really have to be more vocal as far as getting the kids out, because it's their last shot. And he understands that his success is dependent upon some of these younger guys coming out and working their tail off to kind of support the situation. So it's definitely a day-to-day, hassle. Yeah.
Well, and that discipline is important in this area because you play in the northern region where there is some tough competition.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that competition that you face in the.
So when you look at our schedule last year, and it's the same this year, you'll see a state finalist, a region finalist, a region semifinalist, 2 region quarterfinalists, and 2 other playoff teams. So that left 2 games against teams that were not playing in week 11.
Right.
The problem we run into is all these teams we play bring different things to the table. You play Stonebridge, they're going to come out single wing and just try to rum it up your rear end with their, $1 million back that they got back there and their huge linemen. And one kid's going to Michigan, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, you know about Big 66 or whatever the number was. And then you play another team like West Potomac, who's got these stud receivers, big 6'5" quarterback, and they're trying to sling the ball all over the place. And so week to week, you have to completely change what you're doing, both offensive and defense, based on what you're seeing on the field. And so we don't get a break in the Patriot, I don't feel like. Even teams that have down years like TC Williams, you're still seeing athletes that you have to contend with. And Robinson's the same way. They seem to reload every year. You think you go into a year like, oh, they're down because they lost this guy, that guy, this guy. No. Then the next guy pops up, and you're like, where did this guy come from? Right. So, and he's more unknown than the other guy. So you don't even know what you're dealing with. So for us, it's a mental challenge as coaches for us to maintain our level of discipline ourselves week to week to scheme up what we're seeing. And it's tough. I don't know why our schedule ended up the way it did this year, but I shake my head like, what did we do? Oh my gosh, give me a break, will you? So
you open up with Robinson, not Robinson
Correct.
This year. What do you do, since it's right at the beginning of the school year, what do you do to get the word out, not just to the students in school and make sure you get a good turnout, but just the community in general? It's a big game.
Well, there's a variety of things we do. I mean, I have community activities that I go on in the summer, in August in particular, with my community, where we have parent meetings, we have barbecues, and we kind of announce all those things. We have a website, SpartanTCB.org, where we have our schedule posted. Also, the website that our school sponsors for athletics has it too. People like you are of vital importance to us because you get the word out there, okay? Last year, Washington Post did us a service because we were their game of the week starting out the season. So they put their preview package out there for that. So all those things, and Twitter and Facebook and whatever, Instagram, whatever you want to throw out there, all those things have been an added help for us because we can get things out quickly. One thing that we try to do with parents is make them understand how important it is for them to not schedule things vacation-wise heading into those weeks into school.
Right.
We do that as a normal student body as well as the athletes. I mean, just because week before school starts, I mean, that's really when everything starts. And so you want to have as many community people out there as possible. But a lot of people are interested in football, which is a cool thing about the activity. They go out of their way to make sure they find out too. I mean, you'd be surprised how many emails I get. Hey coach, what's our schedule? What are we doing? When
Right.
this, that. So my community already knows Robinson is our opening week. I've already been advertising that. They already know our scrimmages. So I get that word out early and just try to work it from that point.
Well, talking about that, your student section at West Springfield. John and I have been to a lot of places. We've seen a lot of them.
Did you like it?
Your student section is terrific. You guys had a guy out there in a toga with a sword banging the shield. Those guys are terrific. Talk about that. How does that student section, how do they support you?
It wasn't always like that, Rob. I'll be honest. When I first got to the school in 2010, the environment for the athletics and support was a little bit miserable. It's very gloomy. Nobody had a really positive outlook to any of our sports. And I was coaching basketball at the time, so I wasn't affiliated too much to the football program. I have worked diligently hard at this building for the last 6 years to try to pump our kids, okay? it started with their work ethic. You know, they had to. I told them they have to produce for their student body to want to be out there to support them. Nobody wants to go out there and see a team that stinks.
Right.
Nobody does that anywhere. So they had to come out and put their effort out in order to get people excited about the situation. So they did that to start. So that was the first jump. You know, once we started seeing a little bit of wins here and there, particularly against our rivals, you know, this community in West Springfield, it's like a small village in a big town. It's weird. You go to other affiliated communities and there are pockets of neighborhoods everywhere. This is a very compact, centralized neighborhood structure that parents went to school there. Kids' parents went to school there. I mean, it's crazy. So they're already wanting to be behind the school. They just needed something to push them. And I think us winning games over the last couple of years has really helped that. I also think that our other sports doing well has enhanced that. You know, girls basketball has always been a rock,
Absolutely.
as you know. But boys basketball making the state tournament this year was a super help. Our baseball team winning the district or conference this year has always been something. So we have to make sure that we're putting a good product out on the field. They will come because our kids love West Springfield. They do. And the environment there is great now. Kids are totally supportive. They're involved. And I think that's a result of them wanting to be a part of winning. And so we just have to keep winning. I mean, that's the pressure.
And we know where your goals are. So when you have a setback, if you suffer a loss, how do you kind of manage that in your own mind? And
So, like, you mean bad loss versus...
Any loss.
Because I can tell you right now, the Woodson game last year, bad loss for us, right? So how do you overcome that? You got to tell the kids it's the next play, right? And that's every athlete should know that. So if you suffer a setback, like you said, you got to get up the next day, forget it, get better, and get back to work. Because ultimately, there's new life the next week. And, you know, our kids... We didn't really play well against Annandale, to be honest, in the last week, and we ended up winning that game, and that was fine. But when the playoffs came around, I told the kids, you know, we have a home game in the first round of the playoffs here. So, yeah, we've lost 3 of 5, or 3 of whatever it was at the time, and something miserable. And I said, but you know what? Nobody cares about that right now. All anybody cares about is what's coming up next. So either you dwell on the past and fail in the future, or you let it go and you move on. Because you guys know this as adults. I know it probably more so than anybody else. You're going to have your good days and your bad days, your good months, your bad months, your good years, your bad years. You can always work yourself to a second opportunity, no matter what it is. I mean, you were in the restaurant business for a little while.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Yeah.
And the place was popping for
a little while.
It was good, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, when you have things happen, setbacks, now what do? Do you sit and cry about it? No, you got to get up, you got to go back to work, and you got to find that thing. And here you are.
Right.
Does that make sense? So, same thing with me. At Freedom, it didn't go so well with my relationship with the administration, and they kind of didn't want me to be around any longer. So I could have either cried about it and put my head down, or I'm going to find the next spot.
Right.
And I'm going to make that good too. Watch me.
Yeah.
So that's the attitude I want my kids to have. So,
Love it. Hi. What a perfect place to end on. Hey, thank you very much, Coach Jason Eldredge.
always.
I just want to say I am so happy that you are a better coach of high school sports than you are fantasy football.
Oh, man. Coach
Even though
Jason Eldredge.
First of all, he don't tell you I've won 3 championships in that league. He don't say that though.
Coach Jason Eldredge, West Springfield Spartans. Thank you very much.
I did have that.